We now have 4 Shrek movies and 2 Puss in Boots movies, so let's rank them all from worst to best. Welcome to Box of Chocolates, where you never know what you're gonna get. Thank you for joining me here to cap off my Shrek review series. For now, I've done reviews for all 6 of these movies. You can check out that playlist if you want my in-depth thoughts for all of them. This is gonna be my own personal ranking, from my least favorite to my favorite, all just my own opinion, of course. If you have your own ranking, you agree, you disagree, let me know which ones you like and which ones you don't, and why, down in the comments, and we can talk about it. So Shrek 1 and 2 are movies that I watched all the time as a kid. I didn't really watch a lot of the other ones until later, but I like a couple of them quite a bit, and I'm glad that the series is still going on with this sudden revival here with Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and I'm sure more to come in the future for DreamWorks, which I will be looking forward to because overall Shrek is a consistent animated franchise. There's only one that I would consider to be bad that I wouldn't really want to rewatch, and so let's go ahead and start the ranking at the bottom with number 6, and that is easily Shrek the Third. This one is just boring. It's not the worst thing in the world by any means, but I don't think it's good. I think they really started to lose steam at this point in terms of the humor. There wasn't really much. I can't think of very much at all, except maybe one moment that stood out comedically to me. A lot of the characters really started to have nothing to do at this point. Fiona, Puss, Donkey, a lot of them were just still around because they had to be. Shrek's arc is less interesting in this one than ever before or after, and is treated with less sincerity. Prince Charming is the weakest villain we've ever had. He's just not intimidating. He's not interesting enough. He's not funny enough. Anything to carry the movie on his own. And even though we have this kingdom invasion with all these villains, the way it's resolved is super anticlimactic. It mainly just comes down to focusing on Charming, who's the least interesting guy. Arthur was boring. There's just not much to this one, and it's unmemorable, it's bland, and it's one that I would skip, which you really can. But that's the only one that I don't like. The rest of these are all varying degrees of good to great. So next up at number 5, our first spin-off film, Puss in Boots. I don't think this one lives up to a lot of the others in terms of the humor or the emotional depth or even just the story in general, but it's a fun little adventure. Puss is a fun character who can carry his own movie. I like his relationship with Humpty Dumpty and a lot of the action scenes and the adventure that we're going on and the slightly different tone that he brings to his movie while still feeling like it's in the Shrek universe. It just doesn't really have as much going for it as some of the better movies in this series in terms of the humor or the emotional depth. Like, there's part of the plot that just straight up doesn't make any sense. There's some character decisions that happen really quickly, so there's not as much care and attention to detail to those things that could have made it better. But it is a fun movie, and if I'm watching the Shrek movies, I have no problem going on to this one as well. Next up, fittingly at number 4, is Shrek 4, Shrek Forever After. After Shrek 3, I was hoping this one would be at least a little bit better because I had never seen it in its entirety before. I don't think I had only seen bits and pieces of it, and not only was it a little bit better, it was a lot a bit better than Shrek 3. It was actually genuinely good. I was very happy to see that Shrek went out on a higher note, because this movie has a good idea for its story with this world where Shrek didn't exist and Rumpelstiltskin has taken over the kingdom, and we see these characters in different roles than we're used to them as. Fiona has a great role as this badass revolutionary ogre leader. Shrek has an important character arc here about learning to appreciate what he has. Rumpelstiltskin is really fun as a villain. It's just a really good story idea. It kind of spiced things up a little bit after the blandness of Shrek 3, and it gave us the best side character in the entire franchise. Do the roar! At number 3, we have the one that is technically closest to my heart because it's the one that I watched the most because it's been around the longest, and that is the original Shrek. Very special place in my heart for this movie. I remember seeing it in theaters, watching it so many times on VHS. There's a lot that sticks out from this movie with the story, just how original it was, this fairy tale setting with all of these different characters that we're used to, but we're focusing on this ugly, smelly, mean ogre, and this great character arc of him learning to accept himself and everybody not judging a book by its cover, and him developing his relationships with Donkey and Fiona, and we have Lord Farquaad in there as this funny little villain. It's got a lot of good humor in there for adults. And like I said, it's just a movie I have a lot of nostalgia for. It still holds up, even in the animation. The only part that bugs me is the misunderstanding at the end of the second act where Shrek and Fiona have to go their separate ways for a little bit. That's the part that's like, oh yeah, we're doing that part of the story now. It feels a little bit forced, but overall, it holds up. I still really enjoy it. It's got a lot of great humor, and it's a fun, unique watch. Now the top two. This was actually a little bit difficult. Obviously, we have Shrek 2 and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish remaining, and I knew Puss in Boots: The Last Wish would probably be good. I didn't think it would be this good. I thought Shrek 1 and 2 would remain as my top two. That obviously is not the case. And really surprisingly, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is competing with Shrek 2. I actually had to think about it and really decide which one was on top for me. And what I decided is that my number 2 is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Great movie, highly recommended if you haven't seen it. We're not going to go into spoilers. Fantastic, unique animation style, great direction on those action scenes. They were legitimately exciting. We got a lot of great characters, a great story of everybody trying to vie for this wishing star, that only one of them can succeed in actually getting their wish, and there's this whole big battle where they're all fighting for it. Great side cast. Kitty Softpaws is more interesting here than she was in the first Puss. Puss in Boots himself is more interesting than he's ever been. They give him so much in this movie, dealing with him facing his own mortality and looking back on the regrets of his life and trying to decide how best to live his life moving forward. And his little puppy sidekick who was adorable, that wolf who was a badass character. Great story, great character work. Loved the unique animation and the action scenes. Where it falls below Shrek 2 for me is the humor. There's some good humor in there. There's some dark humor in there. They cuss. They bleep it out, but they cuss, and that's unusual, even bleeping it out for a big budget, big studio animated film like this to do something like that. But overall, a lot of the humor was very much just fine for me and did not quite live up to what I have as my number 1, which is Shrek 2. It's up there in the conversation as one of the best sequels ever made, and I mean, hell, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is now too. It takes everything the first one did and expands on it and does it all better, pretty much. It takes it in a perfect direction, dealing with Shrek and meeting Fiona's parents and feeling inadequate and trying to change himself, and Fiona wanting to accept him and them having to deal with compromise in their relationship, and this really cements them like as a really good animated couple. It's a great story. It's the perfect direction to take these characters in. The humor is probably the best that it's ever been, because there's a lot of good story and character stuff in all these movies, but they are all comedies as well. And here, the visual humor, just the speed at which some of these visual gags occur, sometimes just in the background, all the little puns that you'll notice, the pepper grinder in Shrek's face, so many great moments, a great, exciting, emotional climax. I will forever associate the song I Need a Hero with this movie. There's a lot of nostalgia there for sure. Who knows, if I watch Puss in Boots: The Last Wish many more times, this could end up changing, but for now, Shrek 2 is still the high bar to beat, but it's close. And I'm curious to see what else DreamWorks gives us, not only in this franchise, but just in general, because I like what they've been doing lately, so I'm curious to see more. But leave your own thoughts on the Shrek series, what you think we're going to get in the future, what you think about all of these movies, what you like about them, what you don't like, your personal history, anything you want to talk about, we can do that in the comments. I really appreciate it. We got more movies to talk about coming up all the time, so subscribe to the channel if you want to see more from me. Reviews, rankings, trailer reactions, all that stuff. I appreciate it. Share this video around if you want to help grow the channel, get some more eyes on it. That means a whole lot. I have Twitter and Letterboxd linked in the description if you want to check those out. Thanks so much, and I hope to see you for the next one.